Immediately he's having to do 2 joker laps. Or he would have if his car hadn't caught fire. The 2020 British Rallycross Championship was supposed to take place over 6 rounds. Lydden Hill were now running the series, having taken over from the BARC. They changed the weekend format, so every event would take place over 2 days, with points given out after the semi-finals and final. The series would also visit 5 different countries and had been given a new name: the Motorsport UK British Rallycross Championship 5 Nations Trophy, presented by Cooper Tyres. A bit of a mouthful. However, just before the season was about to start, the series and all of motorsport was put on pause for, well, we know why. When it came back, it was reduced to 4 events, though was still called the 5 Nations Trophy for some reason. The season opener took place at Lydden Hill in August. On a sunny Sunday morning on the bank holiday weekend, Rallycross returned to the UK. Practice had a few teething issues for some of the cars, but for most people it was great to be back out on track. Over 70 cars were entered, with 12 in the Supercar category. Heading the entry list was Oliver Bennett in his World Rallycross specification BMW Mini. Sir Chris Hoy and Mark Donnelly made their British Rallycross debut and only their second ever starts in a supercar in the LD Motorsport Run Citroens. One of the cars that had encountered a lot of issues in practice was Sir Chris Hoy. His car had stopped out on track on his first flying lap. Rules dictated that he needed to do 3 practice laps before he was allowed to race. So, just before Q1, they sent him out early and he got those 3 laps in. He lined up on the grid. However, with nice warm tyres, he bogged down and stalled the car. Not a great start, but he got back up underway again, and then he ran out of fuel. Yeah, nobody had taken into account if the race had needed to be restarted or the fact he'd needed 3 extra laps. While Sir Hoy was doing his practice laps, Mark Flaherty was waiting on the pre-grid area. His battery had run flat and also his ALS system had stopped working, so he needed to rev the car. Everything had got a little warm and he got a little impatient at the start and he jumped the first start. Immediately he's having to do 2 joker laps. Or he would have if his car hadn't caught fire. Fortunately, the marshals were quick to put it out. The problem was, though, the engine manifold was destroyed and there wasn't any spares around. So his weekend was over. 3 laps in practice and a jump start were all he had to show for it. The rest of Q1 wasn't much of a surprise, with Oliver Bennett taking the win. Q2 was also supposed to take place that day, however the schedule overran and meant it was pushed back onto the Monday. They were trying to cram in as many races as possible. The Super National actually had their Q2 session split in half. The first heat went out right at the end of Sunday. However, the second heat couldn't go out until Monday morning, leaving over 12 hours between Q2 starting and Q2 ending for the Super National field, which was quite odd indeed. The rest of day 2 wasn't much of a surprise either. Oliver Bennett was out front as always, though O'Donovan was giving him a few taps at the start to remind him he was there. One person that was struggling was Julian Godfrey in the GB1 car. He'd had issue after issue, including a spin and stall in Q4. But all of that was out of the way and the cars were getting ready for the semi-finals. They were all in the pre-grid area, ready to make their start. Except one of the cars didn't make it to the grid. As everyone was waiting for the cars to come out, Oliver Bennett was seen turning around and going back into the paddock. Nobody was too sure what was going on. It was found out after the session that Bennett was using World Rallycross fuel, or P1, and not the Dev 2 that's used in British Rallycross. He had sort of a gentleman's agreement that he'd be able to run that fuel as long as he didn't score any points, which he was totally fine with. However, someone in the paddock wasn't happy and lodged a protest, with the stewards disqualifying Bennett from every session and not letting him start in the semi-finals. So Ollie O'Donovan got to line up on pole position in the first semi-final, but at the start he got mugged off the line by Roger Thomas, and with Julian Godfrey diving to the Joker lap. Once all the Jokers had played out, Godfrey took the win, followed by Thomas, with O'Donovan dropping down to third. The slow start and poor pace was put down to a lack of boost, which they were able to rectify before the final. In the other semi-final, Mark Donnelly had a clear run to first place and also took maximum points from the semi-final. Behind, there was more drama. Dom Flitney and his family-run Subaru Impreza let out a plume of smoke at the start and immediately pulled off the track. Turns out, when he was getting ready for the semi-finals, he'd accidentally put the oil line into the turbocharger, which had promptly burnt all the oil and sent it into the Kent air and sent him into retirement. Mike Manning and Chris Hoy both suffered issues with their car, and they were limping on the final lap, with Sahoy getting past to take the last spot in the final. So for the first time, 8 cars lined up on the grid. The anticipation was building just as the lights were about to go out. And Steve Hill jumped the start. Okay, take 2. At the restart, it was Mark Donnelly who made the best start, with Julian Godfrey slotting in behind. They stayed line astern the entire race, with Godfrey even following him into the Joker lap. Behind, Thomas had taken to the Joker lap, but had to pull off with a gearbox failure at the end of the second lap. Once the leaders had jokered, Godfrey slowed and dropped back from Donnelly. O'Donovan tried to put pressure going onto the final lap, but wasn't able to make it past and slotted into third place. But out front, it was Mark Donnelly who took his first ever British Rallycross victory. With it, he'd also taken the championship lead after a maximum points score on the weekend, with Godfrey just 1 point behind on 13. The series would return in a month's time at Knockhill, with a lot of the drivers looking to make amends for a poor weekend, and certainly a lot of issues that were going around. All of the photos in this video are available at callum.house. If you're looking for any pictures from British Rallycross, check it out. I'm also available for hire throughout the 2021 season at all BRX events. More videos will be coming out soon. If you have any story suggestions or any stories you want to tell, let me know. Cheers.